You ready? Let's go. 2-minute daily Devo for Wednesday, November 10th. I'm in the Contemporary English Version today, and our verse of the day comes from the book of Hebrews, chapter 4, verse 12. Here's what it says. God's word is alive and powerful. It's sharper than any double-edged sword. His word can cut through our spirits and souls and through our joints and marrow until it discovers the desires and thoughts of our hearts. This is another verse that talks about the power of God's word. You know, we've talked about this, like I said, many times before, that God's word is going to live forever. It stands the test of time, and it's perfect, and it's a powerful thing in our lives and in our world. And I want to start with that first part of that. It says God's word is alive and powerful. You know, some people think that God's word is this old, dusty book that sits on your shelf that you may take out once or twice a year on Easter or Christmas, and it doesn't really apply to anything that's going on in our lives today. Well, that couldn't be further from the truth. Everything that you and I go through, everything that we deal with, every emotion, every problem, every issue that we're going through, God's word has something to say about it. It speaks to all of that. It is alive. It is current for today. It speaks to every issue and situation. And God has set up these, like I said before, parameters and things that you and I should do and things that we should say yes to and things that we should say no to. It's all in God's word. And then it goes on to say that it's sharper than a double-edged sword. Back in the Roman days, they used to use swords with two edges so that you could slash both ways. And God's word is that kind of powerful thing. It says it cuts through our spirits and souls, through our joints and marrow, until it discovers the desires and thoughts of our hearts. Here's the thing, and here's what this is saying. You can't hide anything from God and from God's word. You can't pretend that you are a follower of Jesus Christ and then, you really are someone else. God's word will cut through all of that and get to the thoughts and the intents of our hearts. And that's really what it's about. You can say something with your mouth and you can say, oh yeah, I'm a follower of Jesus Christ and I want to do what's right. But in your heart, your thoughts, what are those saying? God's word cuts straight to that. That's what this is saying. And we need to make sure that our hearts and our thoughts and our intents are aligned with God's word. That's what this is saying. I want to encourage you today in this. If you're a follower of Jesus Christ, let's not just be hearers like we've talked about before. Let's be doers of God's word, but let's make sure that our intents, our thoughts, and our purposes align with God's word, because God's word will point those things out and make sure that we're on the right path. All right? That's it, guys. I'll talk to you tomorrow.